to go ahead and get this show on the road. And I would love to get everything started, just like how we do every single week. We want to focus on wins. Let's start on a high note. All kinds of wins. We want to celebrate them, small and, the small ones, the large ones, and everything in between. I know for some of you, it's a big win to even be in this meeting today, taking that time out of the business of being here and being able to be present and work on the business. That's a huge win, and it might not seem gigantic, but it's moving in the right direction. And so if anybody's having any wins, whether they are personal, if they are business oriented, large or small, would love for you to unmute and just share the good news with us here today.
Today, for me, we're just running around, not too many big achievements.
Nothing huge. Well, things are moving on like normal. So I guess nothing bad then.
Well, I mean, outside of me being able to be on the meeting, I guess that's a pretty big achievement.
That is.
I've got a win, but I want Roger Plumbing to share. So check this out. Roger is here. He's a client. You've seen him on a lot of the group calls. He's based in Austin, Texas, but he just arrived here in our offices here in Tulsa. And Redmond Grove is paying for a 2-night hotel stay at a pretty nice hotel, which we don't typically do for people, but it's because of what a bet I made with Roger about a situation he was in, which is kind of just a cool win, fun story. I wanted him to share it just real quickly here.
Okay. So recruiting is tough all the world around. There's just no doubt about it. And recently I had a company that was contacting my service plumbers directly, or actually more specifically, the employees were contacting them and basically just trying to hire everybody that I've got.
Literally, this company went after every single tech on his 6, 7 techs.
Well, 5 now. At the time, 5.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's a lot of emotions that come into play whenever something like that happens, and none of them are very pretty. I didn't know to hunt this guy down. Just a lot of mixed emotions, and none of them good. And then finally one day I'm just driving, I just started thinking, I said, so what is this guy really doing? I mean, I don't know the guy. So if he's got something personal against me, I don't know what it is, but really what is he doing? I mean, ultimately I want to hire somebody that already has a job that I know is good and has proven numbers and proven success for customer satisfaction and things of that nature. So I thought, what is he really doing different? So I decided what I was going to do was buy tacos for his entire company and just walk in the door like I own Request one morning.
Oh my gosh.
So that's what I did. So I talked myself out of it a few times, but I went ahead and went through with it. And I actually walked in the back at the warehouse and approached it that way because come to find out that's where he was anyway. And of course, a couple of former employees saw me right away, and they really didn't know what was about to happen. But I just walked up and introduced myself. I kind of had prepared basically what I wanted to say to them, and I just said, hey, I just want to come by and introduce myself. Whenever you can get your employees to do your recruiting for you, you're doing a really good thing. So as business owners, we don't get many congratulations or attaboys. So I just want to stop by and make sure I gave you one, and I've got breakfast tacos for your entire company.
So again, the story is this: a competitor was recruiting every single one of his techs away from his company, or they were trying to, and they had actually recruited a couple people from him. Roger didn't know what to do about it. He was really upset. Again, what would any of us want to do in that situation? Hunt the guy down, tell him to, piss off, whatever. Maybe hire an attorney, send a threatening letter, but none of that would really work. So Roger said, I'm thinking about buying him breakfast tacos and delivering it to his team and walking to his office. I said, Roger, if you do that, I know you're coming up to Tulsa to record a video with us. If you do that, I'll have Redmond Grove take care of your hotel. And he did it. So anyway, I just thought it was a cool story. He went into his competitor's office first thing in the morning with breakfast tacos and said, good job. And ever since then, we haven't heard too much from them. It's been weird.
Nothing.
I love that story, because one thing that we deal with all the time is when you're a business owner, you're dealing with emotions constantly. You're dealing with your own emotions, the emotions of your customers, the emotions of your employees. And then you have a competitor kind of trying to steal your guys from you. And so instead of getting emotional and getting worked up and, leaving a bad negative review or pressing charges or trying to take legal action, you handled it. You pretty much killed them with kindness. And
Oh.
and now, your employees probably respect you a lot more for the way that you handled it. Your old employees probably respect you a heck of a lot. And now you're not dealing with that issue anymore. And so I think that's a huge testament to whenever you get a negative review, whenever you have that nasty customer, whenever you're dealing with something negative, to just take a couple breaths and kill them with kindness.
Yeah, there's a verse in Proverbs that talks about how treating your enemies with kindness is like dumping hot coals on your head, which I know where my mind goes. If I want to really get back at my enemies, I'll be kind to them. So anyway, any other wins, any other exciting thing happening? Looks like Mr. Will's Resource Electric is actually in the supply house as we speak. Someone had a win?
Yeah, my name is Matthew Dossie. I'm actually on the phone call. I'm not on the Zoom. I'm actually driving right now back from Dallas, but
You're good, buddy.
Nitrogen Compressor Global, and we had a win this week ourselves. We let go of tech. That's been, just a pain in our side for the last year and a half now. We were kind of worried about the fact that he was really our only compressor tech that we really thought could handle the business, but we let him go finally because he would miss jobs, he would miss planes. If we told him to go out and do something, we'd always get hassled back by him. And we finally let him go, and we got ourselves a better tech, and we're actually getting more business in. And come to find out, a lot of people were at us because I didn't like dealing with them. So it's a big win for us.
That's incredible.
That's really big. So that was Alec Dossie with Nitrogen and Compression Global, the only nitrogen service company in the world, and based in Dallas, Texas. And this tech that he's talking about, because I work with him and his dad, it was beyond insubordination, unlike I'd ever seen in about 5.5 years of doing this with contractors full time. Just the guy would miss flights for the company that was scheduled to travel for a work trip. He just didn't care. The guy would just tell the company, I'm not doing that. I'm not working. He would clock in, not be working, and not care that the owners knew it. So, but they really needed the tech because of his technical skill. So I worked with John and Alec to find out something that we could do in the meantime to cover why we would need the guy. They ended up letting him go. It was just a huge burden lifted off of everyone's shoulders. So that's awesome. Appreciate you sharing that, Alec.
Yes, I know.
Thank
you. I got a story as well.
Yes, Manny, tell us the good news.
So this morning I get a call because I got I outsource my estimating. So I don't spend too much time estimating, so I have an outsource that does it for me. And he does quite a bit of estimating for several other franchise owners on the East Coast and the Mid-East and that area down there. So I'm based out of California, by the way. And based off of our success in the past 60 or 90 days, more or less, he wants me to get on a Zoom call with some of these other franchise owners and share some of our methods and some of our strategies and how we were successful, for the past 90 days or whatnot. So I am definitely going to refer Redmond Growth. I just wanted to know if there's any incentives if I do refer any other contractors to the network.
There is incentives. Okay, there is incentives.
I hope they'll remember.
Manny, you took the words right out of my mouth. I was going to say, well, hey, why not refer to these guys to a company that knows how to help? And you stole the words out of my mouth. I'll let your coach talk to you about the specifics of your incentive.
Yeah, we got it.
I'm just joking, but yeah, it was pretty
But we
exciting.
want to incentivize you, so get with your coach. Thank you so much.
Oh, no, he was just joking. We don't need to give him any incentives. Thank you, Manny.
Oh, Robert, you hush. We ain't gonna invite you anymore. All right, guys. Well, really appreciate everybody being open and sharing. What I'd really love is if you do have a win and you weren't able to speak up or just didn't want to, would love for you to send it in the chat. That chat is open. This is a time for all of us to ask questions and kind of talk together. And so feel free to ever, if you have questions throughout our conversation or anything, type it out in the chat, unmute. We're gonna, at the end of the call, have a time for questions. And so just don't hesitate to use that chat. But what I'm gonna do now, just to make sure that we're staying on track here, is I'm gonna hand the mic over to Bryce, and he is going to lead us through our first couple sections here, and then we're going to let Robert wrap everything up for us.
I go by Bryce. I go by Rudy.
Yeah,
I
I think Rudy's the one presenting here. And
I go by many names.
I saw Bryce look a little bit taken back. So Bryce, you're all good, buddy. Rudy, why don't you take over?
Absolutely. Well, here's something that I'm very passionate about. And it's always nice to talk about something that is it's really close to your passion here. But I'm going to talk about communicating with leads and the urgency you need with leads in general. Robert is going to go ahead and talk about maximizing third-party lead generators, and after that, we're going to have our typical Q&A session. It could be specifically about these topics or just a question about the business or unrelated to what we covered. But communicating with leads, this can be sometimes one of the most, I would say one of the most consistently untapped or unchecked area with business owners, because it's so easy to say, I want the phone to ring. And then when it rings, we're not doing what we need to do once it rings. Or I want that form submission, I want that email, I want that lead to reach out to me. And then you finally have it and you realize, hey, I'm not making the best out of these leads. Or maybe I'm there to tell you that, or maybe your coach is there to tell you that. And that's what I want to talk about specific. So you may have some aha moments here, I hope so. But just know that don't beat yourself up if these stats and some of the things I'm going to go through really resonate with you. It just matters what we do right now. So here's a typical scenario. This is most people, most business owners, a typical business. We have the cash money on the left side here. We have all the investment taken to get your phone to ring. It's a lot of money. Sometimes hundreds of dollars per lead, sometimes even more than that. And we put it into the pipeline. It's in that beautiful pipeline. That took me a while to find that graphic. So please, I'm hoping for a couple thumbs up here. You put it in the pipeline. Thanks, Robert. And it turns out when you're not doing the right thing with those leads, they literally just end up right in that trash can. This happens a lot with the typical pipeline of leads. So like I say here, most business owners have invested so much into their pipeline, to get their phone to ring, yet they miss out on opportunities to really make the best of this. Can anybody relate to this here right off the bat, or at least can admit to, hey, I've spent lots of money, or at least some money on marketing here, or to get my phone to ring? Do I get a couple hands here or a comment? All right, so the ones who didn't raise your hand, we're gonna give you the floor here, and we're gonna ask you how you do it, because we're missing something here. So, no, it's a lot of money here, and it's no joke. So we're going backwards on the slides now, apparently. So here's what we need to do. We have to call our leads with urgency, and I'm gonna go through a couple of stats here. So if you call a lead within an hour of receiving that lead, you're nearly, I'm just going to say 7, you're 7 times likely to have meaningful conversations with key decision makers. How many times have you followed up with a lead and they said, you know what, I'm going to just go ahead and I'll get back to you on that. Or I'm going to talk to my spouse about that. Or, you know what, this isn't the best time right now. Can someone attest to that? That's great. And this happens all the time. So why is it so important to call within an hour? Is because you're 7 times more likely to have an actual decision maker on the phone. If I submit a website form on your website, if you reach out to me within the hour, I'm most likely right in front of my computer, right where I left off, right when I was most interested in your service and getting something started with you. So that's why you have to reach out to me immediately, because after an hour, who knows, I'm probably halfway to the next job, or maybe I don't know, going to bed or taking a nap. You're going to miss out on me. So that's why it's so important. You've got to call your lead within an hour. Next thing is, only 37% of companies, according to this research here, actually respond to queries within an hour. So 37%, that's 63% of people who are waiting. I have a personal testimony to this. This is a while back here, but I actually reached out to one of our partners here, one of our clients who took the time to basically, my wife filled out a form for a home tour, and they reached out to my wife 60 seconds after she filled that out. I was kind of freaked out, to be honest. I was like, you sure this is the right people? But sure enough, she was right there, ready to book that home tour and to get that going. And if they had called a few hours later, then who knows where we would have been, or if we even remember we filled out that form. So that's why it's so important. Here's the next stat. 50% of sales go to the first person to contact the prospect. 50%. Does 50% sound a lot? I think it sounds like a lot. So that's so important. If you're going to wait around, there's so many people who just go through that, maybe the phone book at the time, but maybe Google Maps. They call one person, no answer. Call the next person, no answer. Let's call the next person. All right, this person answered. Turns out they're the first person to establish contact. They're going to get most of the jobs. There's a lot more than just 2 people on Google Maps. I don't know if you all knew that.
And another way of saying that is 50% of sales goes to the first person who actually answers the phone, meaning this. Most of us run service businesses, construction businesses. Customer finds us on our Google listing, they call us, no answer, or they call us and we put them on hold, or they call us and an answering service answers and we say we got to get back to them. What does that customer do? That customer just goes to the very next person on the list. So it works both ways, in calling the leads and then answering the phone and the leads calling you too.
Absolutely. That's exactly that. This is one of my favorite here. 80% of sales take, on average, 5 follow-up phone calls after the initial meeting to close. What does that mean? The typical sale from the initial meeting all the way until the close, they've made a buying decision. You've gotten that deposit. Take about 5 follow-up phone calls. That's a lot of phone calls. Here's the worst part. Turns out almost half of salespeople give up after just 1 phone call. So it's so important already to call them quickly and to call them consistently, to call them repeatedly, and make sure that you're not just stopping after 1 phone call. So we really want to make sure, we're going to talk a little bit more about this, but to have a process built in. We don't have to want to make an emotional decision every time we're going through a pipeline and say, well, when was the last time I talked to them? Let's just go through a process. Let's make this easy on yourself. But you've got to define, at what point do I stop calling somebody? And it's not going to be 1 follow-up phone call. I won't let you say that. So We've got to be able to follow up with people and help them make that decision, and help sort through it. Are these people going to be a good fit for me? Sometimes they're not. It doesn't mean you're going to, it's not, there are people you can follow up with 12 times and they're never going to say yes. So, there's some nuance there, but the idea is you've got to continue following up with people. You've got to make sure they, like we say here a lot, is either your lead is going to cry, buy, or die. I don't like that last part, the die part, but let's say cry or buy. Okay, and here's the last one I want to go through here is 76 people who conduct a local search on their phone visit a business within 24 hours. Well, what does that mean? Well, if I'm a retail store or even a plumber, if someone's looking you up immediately, one of the things I hear all the time is, well, Jonathan, sometimes I can't deal with buying some leads because they want the work immediately. Well, exactly. So we have to work around that. That's something we have to consider, but you can't just spend a whole lot of money on leads and turns out you can't even get to them. You have to weigh that in. But the main thing here is if you're not reaching out to this person until 72 hours later, you've lost your opportunity. It's 24 hours here. If someone's calling a business locally and you're there and you're calling them 2 days later, you've lost more than 80% of opportunities here. So we've got to make sure that we're following up with these people. We're quick as much as possible. And 28% of those result in a purchase. So into an immediate buying decision. That's what I like to see. So we really have to make sure that we understand where these people are coming from. And I know sometimes it's not convenient, but we're going to get into a little bit more of that here in a minute. Here's the typical business owner, and this is what you got to do sometimes. You got to be running with that cell phone. You got to call your leads repeatedly. You got to follow up with them. You got to be quick. And sometimes you're jumping in and out of projects and service calls to be able to do this. And maybe some of you are a little bit more outside of the stage, and this is what your office person is doing. I'm not really sure, but you've got to understand the urgency to these leads. You will lose countless leads and opportunities and waste lots of money if we're not reaching out to them quickly. Here are some common reasons why people don't have their leads reached out quick enough. You're stuck in the field. So this doesn't mean, hey, well, I guess just get out of the field and start answering your phone. Well, everyone's in a different phase of their business, and it depends, of course. But if you can't realistically step out of a service call for 30 seconds just to take a quick call and book that job, that's going to hinder you a lot. If you're going to reach back out to them at the very end of the day, you're going to have most of them have already got somebody else in mind or already on someone else's schedule. So if there's a way to incorporate that, a way to step out, and sometimes it's very difficult, but you've got to weigh the pros and cons on this. You've got to be able to determine, is this lead that's calling me right now, is this worth it? Am I able to step away for just a minute, be able to take this call? Another reason is your office admin just isn't doing their job. Sometimes, we don't like to hear this, and I get it. You like your employees, you want to believe the best of them, but I'll be honest, your office person typically doesn't have the same, they don't care about your business as much as you do. And if they're going to decide between, hey, should I go ahead and finish this quick email for a report or that my boss is going to ask me about in 30 minutes, or should I call some leads and follow up? They're probably going to do what they're going to be followed up on. So what's important here is you want to make sure to have a time where you can at least set up some guardrails where your office admin knows, hey, Jonathan's going to ask me about these 3 things, about specific leads, or check on recorded calls, see if I'm answering the phone, see if I'm calling them back. He's going to ask me about you know, at least on a weekly basis at a minimum, there's going to be some spot checking. Are we keeping up with this? So ask yourself, do we have a way to make sure this isn't happening? But it's very common that it gets put on the shelf and follow-up just isn't happening. It's very common. Next thing is you just don't get notified when leads come in. You know, if you're on some third-party lead generators, which we'll talk more about here in a minute, you've got to make sure you have a way of at least getting notified when you've spent money. That's why Google Local Services is, you know, always a little easier and nicer to use, because they're calling you directly. There's no notification required. But if there's an email, you know, who's going to see that email and who's going to reach out to that person? We want to define this as much as possible. Brings me to my next point. You know, a vague process for calling leads is really no process. It's not a process. So we want to make sure who's calling the leads that come from this source. You know, who's answering the phone. If someone misses there's a voicemail at the end of the day, no one was there to answer the phone. Who's reaching back to those voicemails and calling those leads immediately? There's got to be a defined process for every part of this. And all in all, you've just got to prioritize reaching out to leads. You've got to be quick. You've got to really weigh pros and cons and have that inner conversation where you've determined, you know, I'm willing to do X, Y, Z. I'm willing to step away from a job for a little bit, or I'm willing to make certain sacrifices so that I can reach out to my leads quicker. And sometimes there's some things you aren't willing to do, but at least have that in your mind. Know that you're missing out on opportunities, and just go from there. This is the primary thing with communicating with your leads. Has anybody gone from a position where they had a lot of their leads going into the trash can, for lack of a better term, just missing out on opportunities, made some adjustments, and could really tell that now I'm making the best of my leads and converting more and really spending time with the leads that matter, because I'm reaching out to them quicker. Can anybody relate to that? Has anybody made that change in their business yet? Does anybody have leads?
I see a few hands. I
Yeah.
saw a few
Yeah,
hands.
your hands are going up, buddy.
Do I have eyes?
Bob, you raised your hand pretty quickly. What's your story?
Well, one thing that we did in handling leads that was a dramatic change for us is, like Jonathan said, you know, getting out of the field can be so big. Ryan was our main person on the phones, but he was also somebody that was out estimating and checking on job locations. We probably about a year and a half ago, maybe 2 years ago, I can't remember, went to a full-time person dedicated and trained to answering the phones. And the sales increased just from that. We actually decreased advertising expenses and still had, I don't know if it was 25, 30%, something like that, increase in sales, literally
That's
just
huge.
by having somebody answer the phones.
That's huge. Which that's another way of looking at things is, you know, Jonathan, you know, Robert, I hear you guys. I need to reach my leads quickly, but I can't afford to hire someone. So, and I can't reach my leads quickly because I'm in the field. Well, maybe another way of asking that is not looking at what hiring someone would cost, but looking at how much those missed opportunities are costing you. And it becomes a thing where it's like, man, you actually almost can't, you can't afford not to hire someone to call these leads because of the massive revenue that could come in because of it.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I was just going to say, like, to illustrate your point, when you're talking about a 25 or 30% increase in sales, for us, that was about the equivalent to about $250,000. So I think you could probably afford to hire, assuming you got the help to do the work, hire somebody for well under $250,000.
And you're only paying that person $200,000 a year, Bob. So you get no, I'm just kidding. I think we got a question here, Daryl.
Yeah, to that point, so many times people get hung up on hiring somebody new and thinking I have to pay a salary of 80 or 100K. No, you don't. You got to pay 2 months' salary to see if the position works out, right? You don't necessarily
Wow.
need to go through that in your mind and say, I got to come up with 100K. 1 month, find out if they get it. If they aren't getting the job done, slow to hire, quick to fire. Boom, send them down the road. Get somebody else in
And
there.
that's such a great, I'm so glad you shared that, Daryl. And I think that's a great point. We so often can get almost in this worker mindset. What's a worker mindset? We're thinking about our business like a worker, not like an entrepreneur, not like an owner. We can get stuck in this mindset where it's like, man, this will add another, $4,000, $5,000, $6,000 a month to, as an expense. That's the wrong way to look at it. You want to look at it as, what does hiring this person now allow your business to do that it couldn't be done before? That's a better way of looking at it. Now, I'm not saying be stupid. I'm not saying to go out and build a team and hire a bunch of people. And Robert said, hire people and that'll bring business. You got to make sure the demand is there. You got to make sure that they have work to do, right? But a lot of times, we can stop ourselves from making the decision we need to make by looking at that as an expense, not as an investment opportunity.
Yeah, and there's other ways you can do it also. You could also do it on like a per lead basis. So instead of paying them an hourly thing, do a commission basis where everyone you give me, I'll give you whatever, $50 or something like that. There's a lot of creative ways you can do that with people to incentivize people on these callbacks on that. So if it converts into a job, great, they get so much. If it converts into whatever, an estimate, however that works. There's a lot of ways you can get creative, and you'll find the real bulldogs on an incentivized system like that, because if they're hungry and they want to make money, they understand they've got to get these leads scheduled, but they got to be quality leads too, right? I mean, you don't want to people out on crazy estimates and stuff that aren't quality leads. So anyway, that was it. Sorry.
Good. Well, hey, I want to talk a little bit about a subject closely related to this. I think really most of the folks here can benefit from. Bryce, do you care if I do the sharing here? Is that okay? I think I'm set up for it. Just want to make sure you're good. Okay, let's talk about this. So what I want to talk about here is everyone's favorite topic: third-party lead generation tools. How to maximize third-party lead generation tools. Okay. We're talking about our Google local services. We're talking about our eLocal. We're talking about Home Advisor, Angie's List, Thumbtack. This is what we're talking about here. Here's the thing, though, that I know we already know. We hate these things. We hate third-party lead generators. Can I get an amen, church? Why do we hate these things? Well, sometimes we hate them so much that we much want to be like this cop in this photo, arresting this man that works at Home Advisor. Has anyone experienced the joy of being bullied by the billion-dollar bully Home Advisor? Has anyone experienced the joy of receiving call after call while you're having dinner late at night with your family from Home Advisor because they won't stop trying to upsell you on stuff? Have we experienced the joy of paying Home Advisors thousands of dollars only to see $0 come from it? That's why we hate these things. And so I get it. Why do we hate them? Low quality leads. Okay. A lot of times the lead quality just isn't there. It's not even worth going out. The lead's being shared maybe with multiple contractors. We're competing against other contractors, but still paying for the lead. Low quality leads. Other thing here is a lot of times it can be expensive. The leads are expensive. 70 bucks a pop, 100 bucks a pop, 50 bucks a pop per lead that may not mean anything. There's high ad spend. The leads are hard to reach. Sometimes we call them, they're like, I never wanted a plumber. I didn't want a construction company calling me. I have no idea what this is about. Sometimes we can't reach them at all. They're phone avoidant. It's like they only want to communicate on text or email. It seems like a lot of these companies will not stop trying to upsell us on the next package. It's like, hey, I bought the $25,000 package. Isn't that your highest package? Well, we do also have a $50,000 package. It's like they make up a new package just to see if we're going to buy it. the last thing is it's just another system to manage. Okay. Which is why it gets us to a point where we want to really review these companies by leaving something like this. I'm a contractor and home advisor, and Angie's is a complete scam. Have any of us ever thought that? Just raise of hands. Their leads are typically dead leads, or the homeowner or business has received multiple calls and is annoyed by our call. We've all been there, right? So the question is, but are they worth it? So that's what I want to examine. I want to examine when is it worth using these things here, okay? So here are some questions, guys, that you can ask yourselves about when we should use it. We all hate it, but should we use it? So here's some questions to consider. Number one, are we having a hard time filling the schedule without using them? It may be expensive, it may be difficult, but by using it, even if we're not real profitable, can we keep the schedule filled? Why might that make sense? Well, even if we're not making a lot of money by using it, and maybe we're earlier on in our business, or maybe we're waiting for marketing to kick in, that, you know, SEO, or maybe we're getting an ad campaign started or Google business listing, and we're having a hard time filling our schedule. Well, even if we're not real profitable, it may make sense to use it. Why? Keeps our team busy, maybe keeps ourselves busy, and gets us in front of the customers. Why is there still value in getting in front of the customer, even if you can't make a whole lot of money off of that one transaction right there? Because now what you can do is get them on a service agreement. Roger, he's sitting right next to me. He has his service agreement. It's called the Diamond Club, right? It's called the Diamond Club. You know, and now that customer is using you a couple of times a year instead of a one-off. You know, maybe you can do a remarketing campaign in the future where you're letting them know, hey, it's time to do our winter tune-up. It's time to do our spring inspection, whatever. There's still value in getting in front of the customer, even if you're not immediately profitable right then and there. Second question to ask, hey, Robert, when should I use these third-party lead generation tools? Have we done all we can in other marketing? Are we doing all what we can in ad and maybe advertising? Are we doing all we can with SEO? Are we doing all we can with Google, our Google business listing, getting reviews? And are we really doing all we can there? You know, our reviews, are they kind of stagnant? You know, I know some people, it's like feeling guilty in church this morning. Our reviews kind of getting stagnant. Maybe we're intense about it, but we're like, man, I hate using these third-party generation tools, but I don't get calls. Well, max out your other marketing, but if you've maxed out your other marketing and you're still wanting to fill the calendar, it may be time to do that. Second thing, is it time to add a new team member or a new truck, but we're a little bit worried about keeping them busy? Maybe we've got good marketing. Maybe we're able to keep our current team busy. Maybe we're booking out our calendar and we're thinking, man, I think it's time to add that next person, but I'm a little bit worried. Let's use a lead generator. It keeps us covered. It keeps appointments in their calendar. Fourth thing here, do we want more of a particular type of job? This is something that may make sense for some people here. One of the things that you can do with a lot of these tools is you can actually select the kind of jobs that you want from it. So maybe you're doing good in some areas, but you want some more water heaters. Maybe you're doing good in this area, you want some more installations. Maybe you want kitchen remodels and not bathroom remodels. You know, you can use it to do more of a particular type of job. If you answered yes to any of these questions, then it may be time to use the necessary evil. That's what I call third-party lead generation tools, a necessary evil. It can be helpful. We want to get off them as soon as we don't need them. But in the different phases of our business, if we answered yes to any of these questions, we may have to use the necessary evil. And so here's what I want to help you guys with, though. I want to make sure that if you're using these tools, you're really making the most out of them. Because I've seen other companies be able to use these tools and actually be really profitable with them, but they have a total commitment to following these things I'm about to go over with you. And so I've heard people say, hey, I don't know why people talk so much crap about Home Advisor. It works for me. I've heard people say that. How do they make it work for them? How are they so different? They're in the same town as everyone else. How do they get a difference? They follow these steps. So here's how you maximize what I like to call the necessary evil. Here's how you get the most bang on your buck for every single lead that comes in from the third-party lead generation tool. First thing here, and I've got a couple examples to show you this. Completely fill out your profile in detail. Do not half-ass it by getting your name up there. Maybe you didn't do the background checks, but you got the license verification. Maybe you got one picture. Who's going to want to work with a company like that? Completely fill out your profile in detail. Take the time to do the license verification. Get at least 15 pictures on there. Get pictures of yourself, of your text. You know, Robert, I don't have a photography team. Just get a guy in front of a van and take a picture with an iPhone. You know, I'm doing some hiring for Redmond Growth, and I wanted to include some pictures on the job description. I just went out in our office one afternoon and just started taking pictures of things, uploaded it on the computer. You know, get pictures up there. Do the background checks. Customers want to see that. A lot of these sites have FAQs. You know, answer the FAQs. Show the customers how your process works. The reason why it's so important to completely fill out your profile in detail, you have to put your mind in the mind of the customer. The customer is using a third-party lead generation tool. Why? Because they don't know who to work with. They don't trust contractors. They don't know how to find someone who's reliable. So they're using the Home Advisor, they're using local services, they're using eLocal. And as they're using these things, because they are using them, they're going to have a tendency to pick the company that has the most information, that has a lot of reviews, that's verified, that's background checked, that has all the profile filled out, because they're like, wow, okay, that's a company that I want to work with. They're sharp. They look like they have their act together. It looks like these guys I can trust. They've got reviews. They've got pictures. I know who I'm working with here. So completely fill out the profile. Second thing here, always get a review whenever you book someone on the platform. Meaning this, here at Revenue Growth, what kind of reviews do we really prioritize? Google reviews. Google reviews is number one. There's a lot of reasons, and we have old sessions to cover why. Get Google reviews. However, if you are booking a customer on the platform, if you're booking someone from local services, if you're booking someone from Home Advisor, if you're booking someone from eLocal, whatever it may be, Thumbtack, make sure to do all you can to get a review from that customer for that platform. If you booked them on Thumbtack, make sure to get a Thumbtack review. If you book them on local services, make sure to get a local service reviews, which again, different from Google business reviews. Local services reviews are different. It's a third-party lead generation tool. Regardless of where you booked them from, make sure you get a review whenever you schedule an appointment, whenever you do a job for them, when you booked them on that platform. Immediately respond to leads by phone and text. This is something that Rudy his whole session was on this. What's my takeaway from Rudy's session? If I want to make more sales, I got to call leads quickly, and I got to keep calling them. You know, I got to get a call in there in 5 minutes. You know, it's like he gave the hour stat. You know, you're 7 times likely to call someone in an hour. But really, for these third-party lead generation tools, we want it to be in 5 minutes. You know, reaching back out to this person. So just come hell or high water. And here's the thing. I would actually tell you guys, do not even sign up for the third-party lead generation tool if you can't do this. Don't even sign up for that. You're going to waste your money. This is why people hate it. This is why it has a negative reputation. They sign up, people wait, you know, even sometimes 30 minutes, hour, 2 hours to call their leads. Lead already picked someone up. I wasted my money. Well, you did. You're using a third-party lead generation tool. It's not the best thing, but here's the thing. If you call them back quickly, you're going to book them. And if you can't do that, don't sign up for it. I know it's tough, but here's a message I want to send to everybody. Just because I've seen it enough times in early stages of business, of one-man shows, it doesn't matter. I know it's tough, but yes, you can do it. Maybe you need to get temporarily creative depending upon what phase your business is in. You know, can anyone help you call these people if you can't do it? You know, can we step away just for a moment? Can we be working on the job and answering the lead at the same time? I know a lot of guys who've done that. They've built their business that way. You know, so if you can't immediately respond, unfortunately, I just say don't sign up because you're going to feel like you wasted your money. Second thing here, and this primarily applies for Thumbtack, book the job on the platform. A mistake I've seen a lot of contractors make is they'll be using the platform to chat with the lead or email with the lead or do whatever, text with the lead. And the first thing the owner will do is they'll try to get that lead to get off the platform to call them. It's like, hey, why don't you call me? I'll give you an estimate. And then they just don't hear from the lead again. Why does the lead ghost them? Well, because again, you got to put your mind in the perspective of the customer that has no idea how contracting works or how your business works and doesn't trust a single contractor in the world. That's why they're using the platform in the first place. You got to put your mind in their mind. Well, what's going on through their head? They don't trust you yet, which is why they didn't call you. They trust the platform and they trust your profile so far on the platform if they're booking you on the platform. If you're immediately trying to take them off the platform, that's going to look strange to them. Okay, what are they doing? Why are they trying to do? They're using the lead is using the platform for a reason. Don't try to take them away from the platform. Use the platform to book it if it applies. I think Thumbtack is primarily the one it applies to. By the way, if you want more on this, just ask your coach. We have an actual document for Thumbtack for local services that says how to make the most out of using these tools and how to even reply, you know, what you need to say whenever a lead messages you, the first kind of reply you need to have. We have all that documented. If you need one, just talk to your coach. Another thing you can do is expand your service area and budget. And here's kind of the concept here. When it comes to ad spend, this is like just a very general rule that's not always going to be the truth, but it's very general. The more that you spend, the more ROI opportunities you give yourself. You know, if our budget is $100 and we get 2 leads and we don't book any of it, then we say the whole platform doesn't work because we wasted our money on these 2 leads. That may not be very fair. Compared to maybe we spend $1,000, we get 20 leads. We book only 5 of the 20, but maybe 2 of those jobs are jobs worth $1,600 a piece, $3,000 more dollars. Maybe the 3 other jobs are smaller jobs. Maybe they're just $300 or $400. We're still bringing a total of $4,000 for $1,000 spent on 20 leads and only 5 of them booked. Again, when it comes to advertising, more ad spend typically means more ROI opportunity, more return of investment opportunity. So these are the most important points when it comes to, maximizing the necessary evil. Seriously, guys, write this stuff down if you haven't. I want to leave it here for just a second, because if you can follow these things right here, because I really thought through this and we have documentation of all this. I've worked with some people. I said, okay, what are our clients? What are just the fewest things that they need to know to get the most bang for their buck on third-party lead generators? It's these things right here. If you follow these things, if you commit to these things, you can make these tools work for you. If you do it outside of these things, I don't know what's going to happen, but I can tell you, you're not going to be happy about it. So anyway.
For anybody who wasn't in the past 2 group coaching sessions, we spent a lot of time talking about tracking and using our lead trackers. It goes hand in hand in this. I know it can seem overwhelming to manage all of these leads, to keep everything updated, to make sure that we're following up. You might not be the only person calling leads. And so if you need access to those videos, let us know, ask your coach about it, because that's going to set you up for success. But when you're using these platforms as well.
So I just shared a moment ago, completely fill out the profile. Here are 2, what I like to call greatest of all time profiles. One's for a plumbing company I work with here in Tulsa, Spot On Plumbing. One's for Eklund Heat and Air. here in Tulsa, a heating air company I've worked with for a long time. Look at how they have their profile set up. They have their unique value proposition in their introduction. You know, cleanup guarantee, quick scheduling, no hidden cost. They have their about section, their background check, they're verified, 5 years of business. They have 42 reviews. They have a 4.9 rating. This is an awesome profile. You know, over here with Eklund Heating and Air, they've got 12 reviews, which is a good start. We'd want to see more than, you know, at least 40 reviews up there. But what I really like about what they did is they're screened and approved. They've verified their license. 100% of the customers recommend them. They've got these awards, these badges, these things that don't mean to us, that don't mean much to us, but it means a lot to making the platform work. That's what I want to do. And then we're running out of time here. Let me ask you guys, should I go over how I rank these tools from greatest to least, or should we move to Q&A? Would you guys want to see how I rank these tools?
I want to see it.
Or should I move to Q&A?
Same here.
Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and show you how I rank them. Okay, number one, for service businesses, Google Local Services is gonna be the best. Okay, number one by far. It's like getting leads on a silver platter. It's amazing. It's the best advertising spend that you could ever do. Out of any marketing that exists in the world, it's number one, Google Local Services. Number two, eLocal. eLocal works a lot like Local Services. The only thing that's not as good as Local Services is you spend a little bit more per lead than Local Services, maybe on an average 20, 30 bucks more. But what I love about it is it's calls directly to you. So if I were to say, hey, which ones would I recommend signing up first? Number one, Local Services. Number two, eLocal. Number three, Home Advisor, Angie's List. I really don't like even ranking them in the top three, but the fact of the matter is they're so big. And if you have a certain budget, a pretty good budget, you can actually really get a return on investment on Home Advisor and Angie's List. Number four is, I'd say, Thumbtack. Number five is Porch. And then for remodelers or GCs, we've got Local Services. Big news. Local Services, as of 2 months ago, is now open to remodelers and GCs. This is huge, huge. Remodelers and GCs, you can get on Local Services now. Number two is eLocal. Number three is 33-mile radius, which actually Nicole introduced me to. It's specifically for remodelers. Correct, Nicole? Like kitchen and bath primarily?
Restoration companies too. And in fact, they open for
Restoration
plumbers. They open for plumbers as well. It just works a little bit different.
Okay, networks I've seen work really well for remodelers and GC. And then if you go to remodeling.com, they actually have a lead generation service at remodeling.com. And then lastly, Houzz. Houzz was really popular a few years ago, but it still exists, and it's worth, if you're like a home builder especially, but also for remodelers and GCs too. So anyway, I know that was a lot of information, but I really wanted to be thorough in covering all that. Let's open it up for some questions here.
Any questions, you can send them in the chat. You can unmute. If we don't get to you, I promise we will have your coach or somebody follow up with you. So just don't hesitate to, whether it's about the topic today or something else.
And again, if you wanted to hear any of this, if you wanted to see those ranking lists again, I know I went through those kind of quickly. We do record all these meetings and we upload it to a spreadsheet that we share with everybody, that you can go and look at past group coaching calls. You can look at whatever. So if you want access to this group call afterwards, just reach out to your coach. Hey, I want to see that list, or hey, I want to hear what Rudy had to say about those statistics again. Whatever, we can provide that for you too. Okay, here's a question from Hawk, AKA Darren, but I like Hawk. He put that there for a reason. Hawk. Oh, there he is. Okay, he's right there. Aquatic Pools. Okay, how you doing, sir?
Doing great, doing great.
Where does the Hawk come from?
Nickname from when I was younger, stuck with me, that's all.
Like a hawk. I love it. Okay, is there a link to the tracking software?
So I believe you may be talking about the lead tracker. Is that what you're talking about? Yes. So get with your coach, either book a laser coaching call. We're going to have one that's specifically dedicated towards you. It's probably on your agenda. And we'll go over it with you. There's a lot of tabs. Don't let it be overwhelming. We try to make it as simple as possible.
Who's this coach?
I have
Right.
the privilege of coaching Darren here. We actually had our first meeting just a couple hours ago.
I love that.
Okay.
So here's the thing, Darren, you're right in the system here, and for the first 3 months here, it's like a fire hose. So there's a lot that we're going to cover, and within these first 3 months, covering that lead tracking tool is part of it. But Rudy, if you could just take care of this man, helping him get what he needs, and maybe scheduling a laser call with him. Darren, we're gonna get Rudy to get you taken care of, and we'll get you that tracking software.
No problem. Thanks. Thank you very much.
Okay, any other questions? What's your take on the neighborhood app and social media? Will Hammock. So, Will, I think you're talking about Nextdoor, right?
Yeah.
So here's what I like about Nextdoor. And I've advertised on Nextdoor for a number of different organizations now, maybe at least 10 different companies. I help them advertise on Nextdoor. What I like about Nextdoor is, number one, it's pretty new, which means not a lot of people are on it, which means it's cheap, and it's not going to be cheap forever. So that's the first thing I like about it. The second thing I like about it is you can target the zip codes. Okay, it's one of the only ad platforms, I think it's the only one actually that exists that I know of, where you could actually do targeting of zip codes. And so it's cheap, you can get really good targeting. Here's what I don't like about it, is it's technically not even a third-party lead gen tool. Basically, the advertising that you're doing is essentially, there's two different types of advertising you can do on Nextdoor. But essentially, both of those types is just making a post and letting the neighbors on the app see that. And so that's part of the reason why it's so cheap too. Is it's almost like digital billboard advertising, or it's almost like updating your Facebook status. You know, it just goes out to the people who sees it, who happen to be on the app whenever you post it. Now, I do think it's worth it, Nextdoor, because it's so cheap. I do think it's worth spending money there, because you can actually, for sometimes under $1,000, I worked with one company in Denver, for under $1,000, they were going to get in front of like 400,000 people in terms of the impressions. But again, this is just everyone, you know, this is just everyone in a 10-mile radius of their address who's on Nextdoor. And so people aren't going to be paying attention. You know, it's like a billboard, you know, not all your ideal and likely buyers are the ones driving on the highway past that billboard. But I would say that Nextdoor is worth it.
It's more of a branding opportunity compared to a third-party listing site. It's still good. One thing to keep in mind is on Nextdoor, recommendations work like reviews. And just like how your Google business listing is not going to do anything without reviews, your Nextdoor profile is not going to do much for you without getting those recommendations. So before spending any money, just like how we talked about optimizing your third-party listing accounts, same thing. If you're wanting to do anything with social media, with Nextdoor, anything like that, you need to make sure that your profile is fully filled out, that it's active, that you've got reviews, recommendations in order for it to be effective.
All right, guys. I'm going to go ahead and let you wrap this up, because I just got notified that I have group interview candidates outside my door waiting. So if you're curious on hiring, we do got a hiring system. We're in the middle of running that system.
Bring them in.
Yeah. Let's introduce them to everybody. So I'll let you guys take care of it, but love being with you guys. Keep working hard. If you need anything or want some more intel from the session, book a laser call, or you can get the recording as well.
Awesome. Thanks, Robert. I'm going to hand everything over to Jonathan Rood here to close us on out. We're going to do it the exact same way that we do it every single time. So I need everybody to unmute their mics if you haven't already. Yes, we're going to continue to make you do this. So.
All right, everybody, we're going to shout the word growth on 3. Are you ready? 1, 2, 3, growth!
Bye, guys. Have a
Yes,
good week.
Kathy, I love the enthusiasm, Kathy. I love the enthusiasm.